Hello everyone. In the last video, we talked about the quantum search problem and Grover's algorithm. In this video, we will begin our discussion of structured quantum advantage by talking about the quantum Fourier transform, an important operation for achieving more significant speedups. The Fourier transform is a mathematical operation that we can perform to transform between the time and frequency domains. In other words, it allows us to take a signal over time and decompose it into its underlying frequency components. Mathematically, we can write the Fourier transform and its inverse for a given function as the following integral transforms. Intuitively, the definition of the Fourier transform represents a projection of a given function onto the Fourier basis spanned by complex exponentials, while the inverse Fourier transform represents the result of summing over all the frequency components, which simply yields the original function. One thing I should note here is that the choice of signs here is simply a convention. Oftentimes, you will actually see these definitions with the signs flipped. For instance, in physics, you will sometimes see Fourier transforms over time with this particular convention, and Fourier transforms over space with the opposite sign, to be consistent with the exponential form of a right-moving plane wave. For our purposes, I am simply defining the Fourier transform in this manner to be consistent with the definitions I will use later on. Okay. This transform is nice and all, but in practice, we are usually given a discrete set of points transform rather than a function over a continuous domain. Naturally, this motivates a discretized definition of the Fourier transform, which we can write as follows, giving us the appropriately named discrete Fourier transform, or DFT for short. If you've watched my lecture series on algorithms, you're likely familiar with the fast Fourier transform, or FFT, which allows you to implement an n by n DFT in O of n log n time, enabling fast convolution, multiplication, and other algorithms. The little n qubit quantum Fourier transform is defined analogously to the classical transform, given by the following big N by big N unitary, where big N is taken to be 2 to the power of little n. Again, I will be assuming this convention for the quantum Fourier transform going forward. Note that it is possible to implement such a transform for big N that is not a power of 2, but that is beyond the scope of this video, so I won't go into detail here. Anyways, you should note that the matrix corresponding to this gate is simply given by rows of powers of the phase factor omega, which is e to the 2 pi I over n, and it represents the nth root of unity. As we discussed previously, if we were to perform this Fourier transform classically, we would need to perform O of big N log big N, or in other words, O of n times 2 to the n operations. Can we do any better in the quantum setting? Well, let's find out. To begin with, we start with the action of the Fourier transform. If we now decompose the bit string y in terms of its individual bits, we can rewrite this as follows to get this tensor product expression. If we now expand this tensor product, we can write this as follows. Note that here I use the notation 0.A1, A2, etc. to simply refer to a floating point binary number given by A1 over 2 plus A2 over 4 and so on and so forth. Looking at the structure of this product, we can see that the first bit of x is only used in the final bit of the output. The second bit of x is used in the last 2 bits of the final output, and so on and so forth. Hence, if we want to compute the QFT without using any additional ancillas, it makes the most sense to actually compute the bits of the output in reverse order, storing the nth output bit in the first, the n-1 output in the second qubit, and so on and so forth, after which we can then swap the qubits around to get the order that we want. Okay, so with this insight, how do we actually go about computing this in the first place? Well, consider what happens if we apply a Hadamard gate to the first qubit. This gives us the following state, which is actually equivalent to the following in terms of the floating point notation I described previously. Okay, so we have the first bit of this binary fraction that we want, but what about the rest? Well, we can modify the binary fraction of the phase by using rotations rk by a factor of e to the 2 pi I over 2 to the k. By controlling this on a given qubit, we can set the kth bit of the phase to be the bit we control on. Hence, we can perform this staggered procedure of H gates followed by controlled rotations over and over to get the desired superpositions for each of the qubits. Finally, all we have to do is flip the order of the qubits with swap gates to get the desired transformation. Putting this all together, we have the following quantum circuit for an n-qubit quantum Fourier transform. As a concrete example, here's the QFT for n equals 3 qubits. Here we have that R2 is simply S and R3 is T, so we have the following construction using controlled S and controlled T gates. Altogether, the QFT uses O of n squared controlled rotations, O of n Hadamards, and O of n swaps, meaning that the overall gate complexity is O of n squared, assuming we have direct access to this gate set. Furthermore, if we instead approximate the phase gates, dropping exponentially small rotations below a threshold epsilon, we can drop this to O of n log n over epsilon. And with some additional tricks, we can even arrive at the same gate complexity using a standard Clifford plus T gate set. Altogether, we are able to achieve an exponential advantage in complexity over the classical complexity of O of n to the times 2 to the n to implement a Fourier transform of the same size, a significant speedup. Nevertheless, it should be noted that this advantage cannot be utilized by simply swapping out a classical FFT for a QFT. First of all, we would need to translate a classical vector into a quantum state vector, which is typically quite difficult to do. Furthermore, when we get the output state, we cannot extract the amplitudes directly, as measurement collapses the final superposition, and the phases themselves cannot be identified by simply looking at probabilities of measuring certain bit strings. Consequently, the application of the QFT is somewhat more subtle, meaning that its advantage is of a more nuanced flavor. Altogether, the QFT gives us a powerful technique for efficiently performing a discrete Fourier transform in a large Hilbert space. Nevertheless, since distilling information about the output of the state cannot be done directly, this algorithm must be used as an intermediate step in some larger protocol to glean any advantage from it. We will see such an application in the following lecture, where we will go into detail about the quantum phase estimation protocol, which allows us to compute the eigenvalues of a given unitary operator. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.